Okay, so that brings us to our distance formula. Okay. So that formula is the distance equals your rate of speed times how long you're moving at that speed. And in most cases, you'll see it as D equals R times T. Distance equals rate times time. Okay, so let's say, for example, say Stacy drove 7 hours at 40 miles per hour. Okay. What distance did she travel? Okay. So whenever you see miles per hour, meters per second, feet per minute, or anything like that, that's your rate. That's always going to be your rate. So in this case, we know that our time is 7 hours. You really only need the 7. You don't need the unit of measure. And our rate is 40 miles per hour. So clean that up just a little bit. There we go. So we know if our distance is equal to the rate times time, then that means our distance is equal to our rate, which is 40 miles per hour, times our time, which is 7 hours. Okay, so your unit of measure actually cancel each other out. Okay, so that means it's equal to 40 times 7, which is 280, and the only unit of measure left is miles. Okay. So driving for 7 hours at 40 miles an hour, you'll get 280 miles. Okay. Any questions on that one? Yes.
Are we gonna have to convert anything, or for like how?
You shouldn't. I don't think so. Not, at least not yet. Yes.
Do you have to remember that formula?
Yep, that formula you will. All right. Any other questions, or everybody's okay so far? All right. Leave that up for a few more seconds. Okay, so let's say, for example, say Carl drove 4 and 5/6 hours at 60 miles per hour. What distance did he drive? Okay. Do the exact same thing. They're asking what distance. Just know that our time is 4 and 5/6 hours. Okay. Now that you want to convert it to an improper fraction because you're going to have to multiply it. So remember, your denominator times your whole number plus your numerator. So you have 6 times 4 is 24, plus 5 is 29. So it's 29 over 6. convert to improper fraction. Okay, and we know that our rate of speed is 60 miles per hour. So rate equals 60 miles per hour. Like I say, you don't need the unit of measure for most of them. So we know that distance equals rate times time. So we know it's going to equal 60 times 29 over 6. Okay. Where here the 6 and the 60 can cancel each other out. So 6 goes into 6 one time, and 6 goes into 60 10 times. So you have 10 times 29 over 1, which leaves you with 290 over 1, which is just 290 miles. All right. And remember, anything times 10 just moves the decimal to the right once. So 290 times 10, well, 29 times 10 just gives you one extra 0. Okay. Any questions on that one? All right. Leave that up for a second. Yes.
Can you explain what you did after you converted it to an improper fraction?
Oh, sure. So, let me see. Bring that there. Okay, so for this one, you mean this step here?
Yep.
Okay. So if you have 60 times 29 over 6, that's just like saying, let's say, 60 over 1 times 29 over 6. Okay? So remember, when you're multiplying, 60 times 29 over 6, when you're multiplying, you can just switch them right up. So you have 1 and 6, you can switch those up. So you have 60 times 29 over 6 times 1. And with fractions, if you broke those up, oh, make that a little lower, you would actually get 60 over 6 times 29 over 1. So really, when you cancel out, you're just kind of skipping all those middle steps. So as long as you're multiplying, you can see how many times 6 is divided into the numerator and the whole number. So like I said, that's just the long, lengthy way of doing it. But if you get this entire thing and you say, okay, if you divide this one by 6 and this by 6, that's why we ended up with the 1 and the 10.
Okay.
All right. Does that make sense? No. Okay, any other questions? All right. Leave that up. All right. Okay. So one thing you want to remember is that they won't always ask you to solve for distance. Sometimes you have to solve for rate. Sometimes you have to solve for time. You just using the same formula, you can solve for both of those. You can solve for the rate and time. Okay. So remember, if you have distance equals rate times time, and you divide both sides by t. Anything divided by itself is just going to be 1. So you have r equals distance over time. Or, let's say you have distance equals rate times time, and you divide both sides by r. Okay. Again, anything divided by itself is just going to be 1. So you have time is equal to distance over rate. Okay. So as long as they give you 2 out of the 3, you can solve for whatever's missing. Excuse me. All right, so let's say, for example, say Max is traveling a distance of 300 miles at a steady rate. Uh-oh. Get that out there. Here we go. Of 60 miles per hour. How long will he be traveling? Okay, so whenever they ask you how long, they're asking you for the time. Okay. So how long? So they are asking for time. Okay. So we know that distance equals rate times time. So if we want to solve for the time, we divide both sides by r. Okay. Anything divided by itself is equal to 1. So again, time is equal to distance over rate. Okay, so we can see just from what they gave us that the distance is 300. And whenever you see, like I said, miles per hour, feet per second, meters per minute, anything like that, that's always going to be your rate. So your rate is 60. Okay, so this means that your time, which is distance over rate, is going to be 300 over 60. Okay, which means your time is going to equal 5 hours. 300 divided by 60 is 5. Because you divide both of those by 10, you get 30 over 6, which is 5. Okay, so any questions on that one? All right, so you're going to use the same formula to solve different questions depending on what they're asking for. All right, leave that up. So let's say for our next example, let's say that, we'll clean that up a little. Rose took a bus a distance of 506 miles. If the trip is 7 2/3 hours long, then what was the speed of the bus? Okay. So whenever they ask what was the speed, how fast is it going, or anything like that, they're asking you for the rate. Okay. They are asking for the rate or rate of speed. Okay, so that means again, if we have our distance equals rate times time, if you're trying to remember, just remember DIRT, DRT, makes it easier to remember. We divide both sides by t. Okay, anything divided by itself is just 1. So r is equal to distance over time. Okay, so we know that just from what they gave us, if it took 7 2/3 hours, then that's our time. And again, we want to convert that to a improper fraction. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 2 is 23, so we have 23 over 3. Okay. We know its distance is 506 miles. So distance is 506. So now we just go ahead and plug everything in. So rate equals distance over time. That's going to equal 506 over 23 divided by 3. Okay, so now you have a division over a division. So when you have one like this, you want to rewrite it. Okay, so now we're just going to do that right on the side. So if you have 506 divided by 23 over 3, that's just 506 divided by 23 over 3. Okay. So that's why you want to put it as an improper fraction, because now 506, you're going to make that 506 over 1 divided by 23 over 3. So this way we can just divide our fractions. Okay. Remember the rules for dividing fractions. Okay. The first step, you're going to write down your first fraction. Let me bring this up just a little bit. Okay. Now your second step is you're going to change your division to multiplication. Ran out of room there. Okay. Then your third step, you're going to flip the second fraction. Uh-oh, clean that up. Flip the second fraction and multiply. Okay, so that means since we started off here, you go ahead and rewrite it. So we know that the rate is 506 divided by 23 over 3. Okay. So the first thing we did, we rewrote it this way. So we're going to make that 506 divided by 23 over 3. Okay. So then we rewrote it again to make it two fractions. So 506 over 1 divided by 23 over 3. Now once we have our two fractions, That's when we use the steps for dividing. Where we write down our first one, 506 over 1. Your division changes to multiplication. Now you flip the second one. So you have 3 over 23. Okay? And actually 23 and 506, they can cancel out. 23 divided by 23 is 1. 506 divided by 23 is 22. Okay? So this actually gives us 22 times 3 over 1. Which is 66. Okay, so whenever they throw in mixed numbers, gives you a few extra steps, make it a little bit harder. Okay, so any questions on that one? I always tell people, I wish I could tell you fractions are going away, but they don't. People always think, ooh, I made it out of fractions. No, you didn't. You just fell right back into some more, unfortunately. So,
I have a question.
yes.
When you were second to bottom step, where
Mhm.
you're doing the multiplication and you flip them,
Yes.
where you have the 506 and the 23,
Mhm.
you multiplying those two by each other? Or
Nope, just dividing both by 23. So let me move it.
23 goes into 506 22 times?
Exactly. So 23 times 22 is 506. All right. Any other questions? All right. I'll leave that up there for a second. Let everyone finish writing. Okay, anyone still writing? All right. So now we're going to go into graphing inequalities on a number line. Okay. Now your inequalities, do a quick review of those. You have your less than, you have your greater than, you have your less than or equal to, and you have your greater than or equal to. I hope that's going to shut off in a minute.